They called it the race for the skies, a war within the war fought not just by men, but by machines. Engines roared above burning cities. Propellers sliced through the frozen air. Every nation wanted one thing: speed. The kind of speed that could decide life or death in a single heartbeat. World War II wasn't only fought on land or sea, it was fought in the clouds, where pilots trusted thin aluminum and fire-breathing engines to keep them alive. But among all those aircraft, from the rugged Spitfire to the sleek Messerschmitt, one question still burns. Who was the true king of speed? The answer isn't as simple as a number on paper, because in the chaos of war, speed meant more than velocity. It meant agility, climb rate, dive limits, and above all, survival. As early as 1939, the world's great powers were secretly obsessed with one idea: to build a fighter so fast it could strike before the enemy even saw it coming. Britain's engineers at Supermarine refined the Spitfire's elliptical wings, making them glide like a blade through mist. Germany's designers at Messerschmitt carved the Bf 109 into a spear of precision. The Americans watched, learned, and waited until they unleashed something that would change everything. But in those early years, the skies belonged to Europe. The Luftwaffe ruled with ruthless precision. The Bf 109E Emil screamed across the French countryside, its Daimler-Benz engine howling at over 350 miles per hour. For a time, it seemed unbeatable. Even the Royal Air Force, with its elegant Spitfires and tough Hurricanes, struggled to match that climb and dive. Yet, something was happening behind closed hangars and steel doors, engineers working sleepless nights, pushing metal, oil, and fire beyond their limits. Because for every second gained in speed, a pilot gained another chance to live. The Battle of Britain became the testing ground for aerial evolution. Every maneuver, every climb, every dive became a data point in the most brutal science experiment of the modern world. Pilots pushed their planes until the wings shook, until oil lines burst, until they flirted with the edge of blackout. But the war's second act would shift everything. Across the Atlantic, in the dusty airfields of California, the Americans were building something extraordinary: the North American P-51 Mustang. It began as a rush job for the British, who needed a new fighter fast. What they got instead was a legend. When engineers fitted the Mustang with the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, something magical happened. Suddenly, this American frame, with its low-drag laminar flow wings and sleek silhouette, could soar above 400 miles per hour, a number that once seemed impossible for a piston-driven aircraft. It wasn't just fast. It could climb higher, dive steeper, and fly farther than anything before it. The Mustang turned the tide in the air war over Europe, escorting bombers deep into enemy territory and bringing pilots home alive. But across the English Channel, another kind of monster was emerging. A whisper from German research facilities, something without propellers, something that didn't belong to this era. The Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. When Allied pilots first saw it flash by, they thought it was an experimental rocket. The Me 262 could reach speeds near 540 miles per hour, nearly 100 faster than any Allied prop plane could manage. In the dive, it was untouchable. The skies had never seen anything like it. For the first time, propeller-driven fighters felt like relics of another age. The Me 262 was decades ahead, but the war was nearing its end, and Germany was running out of fuel, time, and trained pilots. So while the 262 may have been the fastest aircraft of the war, it was too little, too late. Allied air dominance was already secured by sheer numbers and relentless production. Yet, the jet's presence sent chills through every Allied commander. It was a glimpse of the future, a warning that air warfare was about to change forever. Still, to truly understand who was king of speed, we can't just look at the jets that came too late or the prototypes that never flew in combat. We have to measure the machines that truly fought, bled, and survived through the heart of the conflict. There was the Supermarine Spitfire Mk XIV, capable of 448 miles per hour. The American P-47 Thunderbolt, a beast with 8 .50 caliber guns and a dive speed so fierce that pilots often blacked out, pulling it out of a vertical drop. The British Tempest, so fast at low altitude that even V-1 flying bombs struggled to escape it. And the Japanese Ki-84 Frank, a lightweight predator that shocked Allied pilots in the Pacific. Each of these planes represented a different philosophy of speed, brute force, elegant aerodynamics, or cutting-edge engine design. But as we'll see, true speed wasn't just about who could go fastest in a straight line. It was about who could harness that speed under fire. Because in the chaos of aerial combat, the line between fast and fatal was razor thin. Push the engine too far, and it could seize or explode. Dive too steeply, and the wings could tear apart. Pilots learned to feel the limits of their machines, to sense the vibrations, the change in pitch, the whisper of metal on the edge of collapse, and those who could master that balance became legends. As the war dragged on, speed turned into obsession. Air races of death played out above cities and mountains, from the snowy fields of Russia to the coral reefs of the Pacific. Every sky told a different story of how speed shaped survival. But the question remains, who truly wore the crown? The sleek British Spitfire, refined and graceful? The brutal, thundering P-47 Thunderbolt? Or the jet-powered demon that arrived too late, the Me 262? In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the machines themselves, the stories behind their design, the secrets that made them faster than any of their rivals, and the few pilots who dared to push them past the limits of sanity. Because behind every great aircraft, there was a moment when someone risked everything not for glory, not for victory, but for the impossible dream of speed itself. The story of speed in World War II isn't written in numbers alone, it's written in sweat, steel, and the steady heartbeat of men who trusted their lives to machines. Each aircraft carried a philosophy, a secret, a gamble of engineering brilliance and human daring. Take the Supermarine Spitfire Mk XIV. At first glance, it looked like a familiar friend to the Allied pilots, the same graceful lines, the same elliptical wings that danced through the air. But inside, it had changed. Engineers had replaced the old Merlin engine with the more powerful Griffon, and suddenly the Spitfire could accelerate, climb, and dive like lightning. In skilled hands, it became a predator in the skies over Normandy, hunting German fighters with uncanny precision. Pilots spoke of the scream of the Griffon engine, a sound that seemed to pierce the clouds themselves. Every sortie was a test of nerves and skill, for even the fastest Spitfire could be destroyed by a single mistake. Across the Atlantic, American Ingenuity produced the P-51 Mustang, a plane that would redefine air combat. Its laminar flow wings reduced drag to near perfection, while the Merlin engine, ironically a British design, gave it top speeds unmatched by almost any contemporary propeller-driven fighter. The Mustang could escort bombers from England deep into Germany and back, a journey that once meant near certain death for the crews it protected. And yet, the Mustang was more than just a guardian. It was agile, responsive, and deadly. In dogfights, it could outturn almost any German opponent, while maintaining speeds that left even the Messerschmitt Bf 109 struggling to keep pace. Then there was the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, a machine that looked more like a flying tank than a fighter. Heavy, powerful, and armed to the teeth, it wasn't the fastest in level flight, but it excelled in diving speed. Pilots discovered a terrifying trick. Push the Thunderbolt into a steep dive, and it would rocket through the air at velocities that could rival the Spitfire. Pilots blacked out on occasion as G-forces slammed their bodies into the cockpit. Yet its rugged frame meant that even if hit, it could often return home battered but intact. The P-47 was a brutal answer to speed. Not just velocity, but survivability. Across the Pacific, Japanese engineers took a different path. The Nakajima Ki-84 Frank was lighter, sleeker, and frighteningly fast at low altitudes. Allied pilots in the Solomon Islands and the Philippines reported being overtaken in a heartbeat by a plane that seemed to appear from nowhere. The Ki-84 combined top speed with maneuverability and firepower, a deadly trifecta that forced American pilots to rethink every engagement. Yet it had weaknesses: engines prone to overheating, inconsistencies in build quality, and vulnerability in extended dogfights. Its brilliance lay in Speed's marriage with cunning design, a fleeting edge in a war that demanded relentless innovation. Germany, meanwhile, kept pushing the envelope in almost every aspect of aviation. The Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf W-190 had dominated early in the war, their engines screaming, their dive speeds unmatched. Pilots of the Luftwaffe knew every creak of their machines, every nuance of their controls. They could climb like eagles, strike like lightning, and vanish before the enemy could react. But by 1944, the war was turning, and Germany's best fighters, though fast, were fighting a losing battle against the sheer numbers and technological edge of the Allies. And then there was the ultimate disruptor, the Messerschmitt Me 262. No propeller, no piston, a jet engine. For the first time in history, a plane could leave Allied fighters in the dust without effort. Pilots reported that 1 second the 262 was a distant speck. The next, it was gone, flashing past at incomprehensible speed. It could climb and dive with terrifying efficiency, and armed with 4 30mm cannons, it tore through bombers like a scythe through wheat. But speed alone was not enough. Pilots had to master the temperamental jet engines, which could fail without warning, run out of fuel, and the 262 became a falling stone. And the numbers? Only a few hundred ever saw combat. Too few to change the outcome, but enough to send a shiver down the spine of every Allied air commander. The pursuit of speed wasn't just about engines and wings. It was about human endurance. Pilots learned to sense their aircraft's limits, to feel the vibrations, the subtle shifts in air pressure, the first warning signs of structural failure. Dogfights became a deadly ballet of acceleration and maneuvering. Outturn your enemy, and you survived. Outspeed them, and you lived another day. One of the most fascinating aspects of speed in World War II was how different nations interpreted it. Britain favored refinement, aerodynamics, and precision, exemplified by the Spitfire. America favored balance, speed, range, and firepower combined in the Mustang. Germany, desperate to maintain air superiority, embraced innovation at any cost, jet engines, high-performance prototypes, radical designs. Japan relied on agility and low-altitude velocity, crafting planes optimized for quick strikes. Each approach reflected a unique philosophy of air combat, yet all were bound by the same principle. In the sky, speed was life. Beyond the machines themselves, technology accelerated development. Engineers experimented with new alloys to make wings lighter yet stronger. They refined fuel mixtures to squeeze every ounce of power from their engines. Even propeller design became an obsession. The angle of each blade, the pitch, the tip shape, all could affect maximum velocity. Every fraction of a mile per hour mattered. And yet, speed was unpredictable. Weather could slow the fastest plane. Pilot fatigue could negate mechanical advantage. Even the most advanced fighter could become vulnerable in the wrong hands. The human element was always the ultimate limiter. Stories from the front lines illustrate the razor-thin margin between glory and disaster. One Mustang pilot recalled a chase over Germany. He was closing in on a Focke-Wulf, heart hammering, engine screaming. The Spitfire escort squadron arrived too late. He had to rely solely on speed and instinct. By the time he realized it, the German fighter had vanished in a sudden dive. Was it skill? Luck? The aircraft's velocity? All three. In the war's aerial theater, speed was as much about human intuition as engineering. Genius. Meanwhile, Me-262 pilots shared tales of chasing B-17 bombers at speeds that seemed impossible. It was like hunting ghosts, one wrote. You could see them clearly, but by the time you aimed, they were already gone. But the jet's fragility reminded them that even the fastest machine was mortal. One mechanical failure, one misjudged maneuver, and the sky became a tomb. Even on the Allied side, pilots were acutely aware that the fast planes were also the deadliest. The more power an engine produced, the more it could betray you. Overheated, and it could seize mid-flight, push beyond design limits, and wings would snap. The faster the plane, the higher the stakes. Every flight was a gamble, every chase a brush with death. This obsession with speed transformed air combat into something entirely new, a deadly chess game where every move had to be calculated in fractions of a second. Pilots had to anticipate, accelerate, and react faster than their enemies could comprehend. Those who mastered this invisible race between machine and mind became legends, and the legend of speed didn't die with the war. The lessons learned from every dive, every engine tweak, every wing design would shape the future of aviation for decades. Jets, supersonic aircraft, and even spaceflight drew from the frantic innovation of those dark skies. Every record set, every speed achieved, carried the echo of pilots who risked everything for a few fleeting moments of velocity. In the next part, we will witness the climactic showdown, the ultimate test of these machines and the men who flew them. We'll weigh the champions against each other, examine the defining moments of air combat, and finally answer the question that has haunted aviation enthusiasts for decades. Who truly reigned as the king of speed in World War II? The sky was a battlefield unlike any other. Up here, there were no trenches, no cover, no safe harbor, only steel, fire, and the raw force of speed. And for the pilots of World War II, every second counted. Every fraction of a mile per hour could mean life or death. The question that had haunted engineers, commanders, and aviators alike, who was the king of speed, was about to be answered, not on paper, but in the air itself. Imagine the roar of engines as a Spitfire. Mark 14 climbs toward the sun, Griffon engines screaming, wings slicing clouds into ribbons. The pilot feels the vibration through his seat, the subtle tremor that tells him how far he can push. Below, a Messerschmitt Bf 109 attempts interception, engines howling, flaps trembling, each machine testing the other's limits. In these moments, speed isn't just measured by numbers, it's measured by instinct, courage, and the ability to dance on the edge of disaster. The Mustang enters the scene, sleek, low drag, unforgiving in its power. The Rolls-Royce Merlin engine hums, then screams, propellers slicing through the wind. Pilots who flew it, swore it, felt alive, a living creature responding to every touch, every command. In dogfights over the Ruhr, over the Ardennes, the Mustang became unstoppable, chasing full 190 seconds, outrunning Me 109 seconds, and protecting bombers with surgical precision. Speed here was more than velocity. It was endurance, range, and reliability combined. Yet, above it all, a shadow streaks through the sky, the Messerschmitt Me 262. No piston engine, no propeller, pure jet thrust. The first time Allied pilots saw it, their breath caught. It vanished before they could aim. It tore through bomber formations, its 430mm cannons cutting a swath of destruction. For the first time, speed was no longer relative, it was absolute, almost untouchable. But it was fragile. Pilots had to coax the engines, anticipate each turbine's behavior, manage every second of fuel. One mistake, one miscalculation, and even the fastest fighter could become a falling star. Every encounter between these machines was a lesson in extremes. The Spitfire might dive gracefully, but it lacked the endurance of the Mustang. The Thunderbolt could survive hits that would destroy others, but it couldn't match the nimble turn of a Japanese Ki-84 at low altitude. The Me 262 was untouchable in straight-line speed, but vulnerable in close combat or with inexperience at the controls. Speed was a weapon, yes, but only when wielded wisely. And yet, numbers alone tell a compelling story. The Me 262 topped out near 540 miles per hour. The P-51 Mustang could reach 437 miles per hour, the Spitfire Mk XIV 448, the P-47 Thunderbolt 433 inches a dive, and the K-84 a blistering 385 at low altitude. These figures, though impressive, hide the truth. Real speed was situational. It was how quickly a plane could climb, how fast it could respond, how effectively it could maneuver under fire. One aircraft might be the fastest in a straight line, another the deadliest in a dogfight, and another the most reliable over hundreds of miles of enemy territory. The final judgment, then, cannot rest on raw velocity alone. It rests on balance, the fusion of speed, firepower, resilience, and human skill. In this context, the P-51 Mustang emerges as the defining aircraft of the Allied Air Forces. Its blend of acceleration, maneuverability, and long-range capability allowed pilots to dictate the terms of engagement. It could chase, escape, and outlast. Its speed was meaningful, not just theoretical. It won lives, protected bombers, and turned the tide over Europe. Yet, the Me 262 remains a haunting what-if, a glimpse of a future too soon for its time. If Germany had produced jets in larger numbers, with trained pilots and sufficient fuel, the story of the skies might have been rewritten. History, however, had other plans. The war ended before the true potential of jet speed could be fully realized. The Me 262 became a legend, a promise of a new age, but not the crown bearer of World War II air combat. Speed, ultimately, is more than numbers. It is courage in the cockpit, ingenuity on the assembly line, and the willingness to push both man and machine to the edge. Every Spitfire pilot, every Mustang ace, every Thunderbolt commander understood that. They felt the hum of engines, the wind tearing across wings, the momentary silence before a dive, the visceral proof that speed was life itself. And so, the answer emerges not as a single plane, but as a story of relentless pursuit, of human innovation married to mechanical genius. The fastest fighter in pure numbers might have been a jet, but the king of speed in war's practical, deadly reality was the P-51 Mustang, fast enough to outrun, agile enough to outmaneuver, reliable enough to survive. It was the aircraft that allowed men to conquer the skies, strike deep into enemy territory, and come home alive. Even today, when we look at the sweeping curves of a Spitfire, the muscular body of a Thunderbolt, the razor-sharp silhouette of a Mustang, or the ghostly streak of a Me 262, we are reminded that speed is more than engineering. It is a symphony of risk, skill, and courage. In every propeller spin, in every turbine roar, echoes the heartbeat of a pilot, daring to touch the edge of possibility. The skies of World War II were unforgiving. They demanded perfection, punished mistakes, and rewarded those who understood that speed was not merely a number, but a weapon, a shield, and sometimes the only difference between life and death. Every dogfight, every dive, every chase over a clouded battlefield tells the story of men who became legends and machines that became immortals. As the engines fall silent and the war ends, the legacy remains. Aircraft may have evolved, jets may now streak faster than sound, but the lessons of those desperate, soaring years endure. The quest for speed is never just about the machine, it is about humanity reaching beyond limits, testing courage, and daring to fly, faster than fear itself. And so, when we ask who was the fastest, who wore the crown, the answer lies not just in velocity, but in the combination of speed, power, endurance, and the courage of those who mastered both the P-51 Mustang, the fighter that earned its place in history as the true king of speed in the skies of World War II. Because speed was never just a number. It was survival, it was mastery, it was life, and above all, it was the heartbeat of a world at war.